Okay, so it's looking more smoother. Can always hide this. Hello, dudes and dudettes. You guys are welcome to another Blender tutorial brought to you by the Luwizart. My name is Emmanuel Okafo, and today we shall be trying to create this nice looking barrel procedurally. That's the fun challenge inside Blender. So we're going to try to achieve this using modifiers and just lattices just until we come to the shape. And let's kick off. Before that, you guys should just take notice of this direction in case you're new to Blender and you're not familiar with the shortcuts. You can just follow along with the screencast key, which is just limited to this area. Uh, okay, so we'll first add a curve circle, and you can also do that by going here and adding it. Once you do that, let's also just move it upwards a bit and then add a plane. So we'll rotate this plane 90 degrees and scale it in the x-axis and just pull it up, scale it y. So this plane is going to act as the geometry that will go around this circle. Next, now it has no thickness, and we could go into the edit mode and extrude it. But since we're sticking to the procedural theme for this tutorial, we shall just use the solidify modifier and extrude it so that we can always have control of how it looks. Okay, so it's looking nice. Next, let's create that nice effect where it's going around the sphere. And before that, let me just scale this because I think it looks bigger than the reference. So the next modifier we'll be using is a very cool modifier. It's called the array modifier. So this array modifier just instance your object. So it's cool. You can add multiple objects. You can create offsets. You can also offset the UVs, which will come in handy later when we're shading this model. And you have so many parameters to play with. But we just want to stick with the basic functionality, which is just create basic instance for us. So 2 is not enough, so let's set it to maybe around 15, which we can modify over time. And for the offset, we want to set it to 0.01. As you saw in the reference, we have some space here, though it's not really prominent, but I just closed that. I need to open that again. Okay, so as it's not so prominent, but it's there, so I'll just move this. So yeah, looking okay. Though I need to add some bevel, but we'll do that later. Next, we will just use the curve deform modifier to make it wrap around this nice circle. And to do that, we can just select this and shift select this and press Ctrl P, curve deform. And it's not looking nice, so let's debug that. So it's a good practice to always press Ctrl A to apply the rotation and scale whenever working with modifiers or simulation inside Blender, because it saves you a lot of time and gives you a better percentage to achieve the result you're going for. So let's try that again, and it's not doing that. So the next solution to that is to select this plane, shift select the curve and press Ctrl C, copy location. So in case you don't have this cool copy attributes menu here, it comes to Blender by default. So you just need to go to your user preference by hitting F4 and search for copy attribute. So it comes by default with Blender. So it has so many cool stuff which we cannot cover in this tutorial. So we can shift select this plane again, shift select this and press Ctrl P, curve deform. So it's going to wrap around it perfectly. So let's make sure it didn't distort the stuff too much. So let's just scale it a bit downwards and pull it down. Okay. Now let's make it wrap very well. Using the array modifier, we'll just increase the count. So 19 is good, but it's not really wrapping around it. I think we'll just increase this to 20, then hold S and Shift Z so we can scale it. Okay, cool. So we've gotten it to wrap around the curve. So because we're going to have like so much objects, so much helper object in the scene, it's good to name everything so we don't get confused over time. So let's just call this barrel underscore wood, and this we just call this curve deformer. So it's just good. It's a good practice to always name your object, because so when the scene gets complicated, then you have hard time locating anything you're doing. Okay, so now this looks nice. Let's add the cap. So to do that, we can just duplicate this curve because it's already aligned with the whole geometry, and let's convert it to mesh so we can be able to edit it and just extrude it. Cool. So this is what we're going to get. Next, let's add the solidify modifier to give it some oomph. Let's just do this so it looks cool. And before we go on, if you look at the concept, you notice there's a nice transition between this cap and this, so you're getting like a nice curve transition. So let's see if we can achieve that in Blender. So I will just use this solidifier because that's where we're going to use to achieve this. Just scale this out a bit. Okay, and so if you want to see your modifier in edit mode, you can just click on this nice icon, it will appear there. So let's just model a bit and pull this. Where's my edge loop? So around here. Okay, so this we do. So we're just actually working on one plane here, so you remember. Okay. So the transition it's just sliding in. It's all straight, but it then slants inside. So to do that, we think we need to move this upwards slightly. Then select this and press Ctrl G. So we're going to use the vertex group to modify this. So in this, we can just call this, I think we just leave it as group. And let's make the modifier aware of the vertex group. So for now, nothing happens. But if we select these two vertices and where is it? And just 2.5. This is what we get. And I don't like how it's looking. So let's see if we can flip it. So we can't. Say 1. Okay. So we can flip it and just scale it, scale Z or Y, or grab Y. Okay. So we have created the nice effect. So let's see if we can add one more and do the same thing, but this time give it like 0.2. 0.2 is too much. 0.3. 0.4. Just model it by hand. Add bevel. You know what? I'll just leave it. Let's just leave it like this. The message still comes across. So let's enable the rest of the modifiers. Cool. So I've gotten that nice cool effects. Just move this here. So I've gotten that nice cool transition. So let's keep modeling. Um, as you saw, there's like cuts around this area. Like you can see cuts around this area. So let's create that also procedurally. So to do that, I'll just delete this annotation too. Selecting it, cursor to selected, we'll just add a plane, rotate it Y 90 degrees, pull it roughly around here, scale Y. I need to save it. Let's call this too. Okay, so this plane is gonna act as a boolean. So let's name it top boolean underscore top cover. So then for this one, I will call this top cover. Okay, so it's good to name everything so later it will be easy for us to do anything we want. Let's also add a solidify modifier to be able to add depth to the plane because right now it's just flat. Cool. So, and finally, we'll just add a cool array. And let's apply the rotation and scale. As I said earlier, when dealing with Blender modifier, it's really important to always apply stuff like that. Okay, so we're going to use this to cut into the top cover. And let's first, for just display purposes, we'll just go into the viewport display and set it to wire. So we get this nice stuff. Okay, and next we select the top cover. In the modifier, we want to add a boolean and set it to a boolean top cover. So we get this nice stuff. We want to then set it to different. So based on the concept, this dent is too much. So let's modify that. So since we are working procedurally is easy. We can just reduce the solidify modifier and then just scale this up using the relative offset. To position we are happy. I think we need to add more. Okay. At this point, I want to create a new layer and call this helper. And then any object I don't need, I'll just hide it there. So this is the position we are right now. Okay, so I want to repeat this beneath it. So that's going to be tedious to repeat. I can just add a simple empty, and I will just name this empty underscore mirror. Okay, and this empty will serve as an origin to mirror this nice cover. So I'll just do that mirror, then select the empty. So it looks like nothing is happening. That's because we need to change the axis to Z. So if we select the empty and let's scale it out a bit, we can move this any location we want. Okay, so it's looking all good, but it's not looking like a barrel. It's just looking like a cylinder with it just looks like a fancy cylinder. So let's make it look like the barrel. So for that, we just add a nice lattice and just scale it out and scale Z. So it just roughly aligns with the barrel. Okay, and so we want this lattice to affect all the objects except the curve deformer. So the curve deformer, as if you can remember, is just the first curve we added. So let's disable that. So if you just select this one. If you're not familiar with lattice is really awesome. You can be able to use to deform your objects. You can use it during animation. It has cool properties like vertex group, shape keys. That if you want to use it for very simple thing or very complex tasks, you can do that. So right now the resolution sucks. It's just $2. but we need more stuff, and we want to create nice. We want the resolution to be something like this. So basically, we want it to be more. We want more resolution in the z-axis. So to add that, so this UVW is just basically X, Y, Z. So if we increase the W, which is the Z axis, you get more. Um, it's like edge loops. So I just want just one, and that's that. Okay. So let's unhide everything. Then press Ctrl I to invert. Sorry, Ctrl I to invert all the selections. Shift select the letters and press Ctrl P. And something I want to turn on this stuff too, because I want the, what is the name again? Boolean top. So Ctrl I, let's do that again. Then shift select the lattice and lattice deform. Okay, so even though this moves up, we can just manually pull it down. Okay, so now everything is in place. We can go into the lattice and just modify it. And a cool feature is it has shape keys, as I said earlier, so you can always, in case you change your mind about the shape, you can always modify it. So we'll just scale this upwards, and everything goes along with it, and we can just scale it inwards. Okay, just turn on the random object and shadows, maybe shadows, for good visual display. Okay, so you can always scale it up, scale it down. So I'm just looking at the concept to see it match, and yeah, so far it's looking good. So we can just move this to the helper collection and just hide it. Everything we don't need, we can move it there. Cool. So basically we've gotten the shape. It's looking all cool. So I forgot to add the rings, the metal rings going around it. So that should not be a problem. I can just easily disable. I can select this lattice and turn this to 0. So we still can go back and do any changes we want. Let's just duplicate the sculpt deformer once more. Shift D and call this metal rings. Barrel metal. I'll just call it barrel metal and move it here. So I want to scale it a bit, but first let's convert it to mesh and scale. Okay, so we could have even stuck with the curve, which I will do, and just work with it as a curve. So I will scale it up. Yeah. Okay, and I will then set it to half, which is okay. Then for under the geometry, I will extrude it. Okay, so it's gonna just extrude it out. Just pull this upwards. So since the theme is procedural, everything has to be procedural. So I'll set it to 0.4 is too small, maybe 0.07, just one. Okay, so let's, if you want to extrude it, we can still use modifiers with curve and use solidifier modifier. Just pull it outwards. And let's see if we increase the resolution. Use the depth. Okay, instead of the solidifier modifier, we can use the Bezier. We can use the curve parameters to make it look cool. So I'll set it to full this time. and for the depth, reduce it. Cool. So now we can duplicate this, move it to align roughly with the concept. So I think I need to scale it down a bit to like 0.45. Let's pull it up. So let's do just create the rest. Yeah, yeah. Cool. So it's looking okay for now. So let's add mirror because we need to also have one at the bottom and set it to barrel or empty mirror. Z. Cool. It's looking good for now. So let's also apply the lattice modifier to it. So selecting the lattice and the metal, Control P, sorry. Okay, so now if we just select the lattice and enable the deformation, we should see something. Nothing. So let's just do it manually. Let's see. Lattice. Cool. As you can see, we've created it and it looks nice. So this is looking all cool, but it's not looking visually pleasing. So let's make it visually pleasing. For this one, we want to apply smooth shading. But then we have this low poly effect, which we don't really want. So let's use the bevel modifier to make it sharper. And before that, let's just bevel this bit so we have more smoother transition. Okay, so I want it to be sharper at the edge, and a cool way to do that is also using the bevel. So let's add bevel, and this time we'll set it to weight. So just leave it at the none for now, and isolate that. So we want to just select the edges, and if you have this selected, you have the scope parameters here. So we want to increase the mean bevel weight to 1. Then if we hit this bevel, we should see it looking okay. So just increase the segment and it's now looking more presentable. Move this above every other thing. And now we can enable the whole system. Voila. We've created a nice looking barrel just from thin air. Just turn off the shadow. And you can go back and edit anything without having to start afresh. So let's add, this stuff is looking too big. And let me see if I can add more. Okay. So it's looking more smoother. And always hide this. Cool. But that's basically it, how to create a barrier procedurally inside Blender. So we got everything we needed. So we also need a sharp edge around this position. Selecting this, let's isolate it. And we want stuff like this. So we increase the bevel mean to 1, 2. Okay. Enable everything. Yeah, that's basically it. Creating it procedurally. So let's add materials. So for adding materials, let's go to the shading and just add a simple principal shader and add an image texture. Go to my texture library and under woods. So you can do this with any wood. I just want to show you a specific thing. That's why I'm adding it. So let's set it to look dev. So right now the whole textures are the same because since it's all procedural and we're using Arial, so Blender offers you the feature to changes. So under the array, you want to go and offset the UV, so they are not looking so identical again. Yeah. So it can even be useful for also mirror too. So let's link the materials. Okay. I think we need to unwrap. So the mirror modifier materials are looking identical. You can also change that using this. So that's really helpful. So that's basically it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. It may have been too long. It might have turned out longer than I expected, but I'm really happy with the result, and I hope you guys learned something from it. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to grow it, and I'll keep posting some awesome thing for you guys. So thank you again for watching. Bye bye for now.